Hi, I'm Donald Jones from Next Street, and I want to welcome you to our small business interview series. This series is all about connecting incredible small businesses in our network, learning about their entrepreneurial journeys, and celebrating their resilience, their creativity, and the impact that they bring to our communities. We also want to highlight the power of community and the role that our network of partners has played in supporting these businesses along the way. This edition of the interview series is especially meaningful and personal to me as we honor Pride Month and to celebrate the uplifting stories of LGBTQ plus owned businesses. So let's get into the conversation. David, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Why don't we get started by you telling us a little bit about your businesses?
Hi, Donald. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So, my two brands and businesses are E Pluribus Presents, which is a media communications and production house. I started working in freelance, doing podcasting and documentary work back in 2017, and found it was best to build out a brand to do the billing through there, and eventually wound up doing all kinds of media work from traditional book editing, web design, and really the full gamut of media and communications press work. So I have a pretty wide depth of experience on both sides of making the production, creating the video, editing it, getting it distributed, but also prepping talent, prepping businesses or brands for their press appearances as well. In the last 2 years, I've launched STREAMr, which is a podcast and media distribution platform. If you're familiar with podcasting, and I think most of you probably are at this stage, you're probably aware that the realms of sort of traditional YouTube video platforms and some of the more old school podcast platforms like Apple and Spotify are starting to merge.
Mm,
Seeing that trend coming, I thought, well, a lot of these talent have extensive libraries on one platform and maybe not so much technical expertise in getting it to the other. So Streamer is a one-stop shop where you can drag and drop all of your content, click a few boxes, and before you really know it, all of your content will be available in the appropriate format on Apple or Spotify if you uploaded a video, or on YouTube or Vimeo if you uploaded audio for your audiences on those new platforms to enjoy.
that's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about the types of clients that you serve?
So, E Pluribus Presents, the naming is very intentional. If you're familiar with America's motto, E Pluribus Unum, it means of many, one. E Pluribus is the part that emphasizes the many. The intention behind that branding is to say that I'm telling the stories, highlighting the narratives of the many, of the marginalized, the diversity that makes this country who we are. There's a whole battle right now in America's consciousness for that sense of should we be just who we were, white, straight, Christian, cis men who ran this country and founded it? Or should we be who we are, the full diversity and range of identities that make up the American mosaic? As for STREAMr, the target audience is everyone trying to tell their story,
Mm,
trying to reach anyone who wants to hear it, because storytelling is how we understand who we are, who the other is, and it breaks down barriers. And so I wanted to make sure that there were fewer hurdles for people to tell their stories and reach audiences in new ways.
that's fantastic. I think just thinking about the importance of that authenticity and being kind of one's full self and how there is sort of space for many to be able to do that. And that I think, for those of us that kind of work in similar spaces that are particularly focused on kind of underrepresented, marginalized communities, we see how much sort of greater of an impact you can have if you widen the tent, right? And include more folks. So I'm curious, just kind of thinking about authenticity, particularly from an identity perspective. Can you share a little bit about, how identity has been kind of an asset for you as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. It's taught me to see outside of my own experience,
Mm,
which one of the many definitions or frameworks of privilege is not needing to really think outside of your box. When it comes to gender dynamics, women in this world have to think so much like men in a way that men don't have to think like women. There's always the analogy of a black woman in this country probably knows all of the Sex and the City characters, but a white woman is not as likely to know all the characters from Girlfriends.
yeah, I love that show.
One-way street.
Yeah.
And exactly, we grew up watching it at home. But the fact that I know what I don't know as a black cis man when it comes to the experience of a lesbian or a trans person, that I don't think I'm all knowing because I'm oppressed or because I know
Mm,
oppression, that I'm never going to do that to someone else.
you
And it
have
helps
that
me
sort of curiosity, right? About you
exactly.
approach it with that curiosity about others. Yeah. Sorry, I know it's continue.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And it allows me to be more open-eyed and more open-eared as I'm helping clients from these diverse backgrounds tell their stories in a way that's authentic to them and not filtering or looking to meet my agenda or my preconceived notions.
Wow. I had not heard it articulated in that way, right? Sort of being other or othered, right? In some way, sort of what that feels like to sort of to fit into a box. And so, for approaching kind of your work with that openness of like seeing the power of letting folks kind of tell their own story, and approach it, in a way that's influenced by their lived experiences, you get to greater impact that way. That's fantastic. Thank you. I know you talked about, when you were describing your business, the importance of it, given the times that we're in today, uh, that are very uncertain. And so, one of the new themes that we wanted to bring into the interview series was this idea of needing to pivot, to uh, move past kind of the unexpected, to overcome sort of challenges, that you did not anticipate. I have to be honest, we came up with the theme before, some of the sort of headlines and the administration changes. But boy, is it sort of, timely now. And so I'm just curious about, in your own journey, where have there been moments where you've had to pivot, and what was the biggest lesson that you've learned from one of those experiences?
I am resourceful
Hmm.
is a big lesson. I mentioned that I've had a lot of different things come my way. And there's a little bit of simplicity in some of them. For instance, it's Pride Month. It was exactly 6 years ago for the 50th anniversary of Pride that I decided I need to launch my first podcast. And that just took a subset of the skills that I have as a TV producer and really just taking the audio piece and putting it out into the world. So that took a little less out of the box thinking. But about 2 years ago, I'd been doing some podcasting work with Michelle Norris. She's the former host of All Things Considered. She has a
Yeah.
project called the Race Card Project. And after working with her on podcasts through that brand, she turned to me and she said, David, do you edit books? And it'd been a long time since I quite edited anything as large as, say, my thesis at Princeton. But I found that I was able to use the tools at my disposal to process a 500-page book that told a tapestry of stories from across the country and really around the globe, really tackling race and identity and using all of my skills that I've taken as a politics major, but a journalist and also the son of an art teacher, as far as understanding the visual impact and the design and the layout for the pictures, and really taking all of those skills and putting them together in a way that I hadn't done before. And I'm really proud of the outcome of that work. Also worked on the audiobook. And she also referred me to her friend, Dr. Sharon Malone, who is Eric Holder's wife as well. I worked on her book, and so that really opened up an entire new business line for my brand, and it really showed both my ability to pivot, but again, my resilience just on the spot.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's when you kind of get these sort of unexpected opportunities and then sort of to like do that on personal reflection of I've done aspects of that before, or it's been a while since I've done that, and then kind of leaning into how do you bring that to bear to advance something. Yeah. um so you got connected to us through the NGLCC, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, here locally in New York, the New York, New Jersey metro area. And so I'm just curious to hear how sort of being a part of the chamber has been, helpful to you. What are some of sort of the resources that you've been able to tap into, as a result of your affiliation with them?
Yeah, I have a really strong network of businesses who are supporting and referring me if they're not actually using my services directly as well. You find that everyone at the NGLCC is trying to help you in the way that they can. And whether that's providing their expertise as much as they can for no charge, or really connecting you with the right person that either meets your needs or provides the client or customer base that you're looking for. It's so open, it's so supportive. It's for a business network, not very transactional in terms of people are really being collaborative, are really trying to get each other across the finish line without necessarily asking what you can do for them. So it's also just a lot of fun. The queer community just has so much personality and quirks, and the sort of how normal or into dominant culture can you be that makes so much of regular or cis normative or heteronormative society is not at play, and there's a real freedom to just be yourself that, especially when there's money on the line, you're conditioned to tamp down on your queerness or your blackness. And so the fact that you don't have to do that and you can still pursue your business goals and still see each other as serious business people and business owners is a really significant freedom for us.
Yeah, I mean the power of the network, right? Is exceptional. We often in our work across the country with small businesses find that they lack access to the network, and I think that in our actual direct conversations with them, sometimes they don't realize that just looking across or throughout just the community that you're already a part of, that's a wonderful starting point and launching pad to really finding new ideas, finding opportunities to collaborate, and also just to be a part of a greater community of folks that have shared lived experiences and goals with you. That's great. Anything else, just in terms of my final question, is there anything else that you didn't get to share in this conversation that you wanted us to know?
I will just follow up to the piece about NGLCC, and I'm now the corporate engagement lead. And the fact that they do make that connection to big business, which is what you do as well through your connection to government contracts, those access points scale businesses up
Mm,
so tremendously and so simply. And I think if people understood that you can get a lot of returns from two or three of the right contracts as opposed to chasing 30 or 40, the bell curve of Black success, of queer success as entrepreneurs would be a lot shorter. So I think that that kind of access and that kind of networking is one of the particular strengths of NGLCC that you guys also have as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think, as leading a small business myself here and knowing our own story, particularly for being around for the last 11 and a half years, I've seen, particularly in the last 5 years, just how game changing kind of getting one or two kind of those large corporate contracts, additional government contracts has been for our own business. And it's just, you're right, it's completely transformative and that need to be targeted, right? What is it, a mile wide and an inch deep kind of thing. So if you can just be really, really focused on kind of some hot prospects and then really sort of pursue those versus kind of the other approach of, casting that wide net, I think you're absolutely right that bell curve would look a lot different. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.